This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Okay, so the agenda today still is short, but I think that's okay. It'll give us plenty of time for discussion if we choose to do so. The first item on the agenda is news from LibLime, and I wanted to make sure that you all got the notification that I had updated the Bibliovation release notes point release by point release, and that is this document. This is the tab for 6.0021. I also updated the point 19 and the point 20. So I should point out that in the point 19, 20, and actually 21, a lot of these are fixes from problems that were detected by South Central Library System. And so they may or may not apply to what you are doing. You might, if you're not using acquisitions, you will want to skip, of course, the ones that are ACK, but you may want to look through the others. I noticed that a lot of these have to deal with holds. So depending on how robust your hold use is, that would be maybe an indication of how important these might be to you. This 6.21, this is the one that Jane announced earlier this week, and mentioned that that there was need to get this into the production system quickly. I still don't have a date, I'm sorry to say, for when this will be installed, but I would expect that within the next week that it will be installed at some point. So be sure to watch for the notifications. Usually they give us at least a day's notice before they do the install. If you find anything on this list, if you take some time and do some testing, if you find anything that is wrong or that is still not fixed, be sure to report it right away so that it will do two things. It will get the fix into the queue to get fixed faster, and it also may prevent the this point release from being installed in production. So it's worth your while to look through these. Okay, any questions about this list and where we're headed with that? Okay, let me go back over to this. The other piece of information from LibLime this week is that there is something that I didn't see in the release notes, although I may have just skimmed over it. In the sandbox, in your sandboxes, be sure and look in your sandboxes. There is a new system preference that you should be semi-aware of. The way to find it is to go to administration and then in the search box, type OCLC and have it search. This OCLC Web Services key is the new system preference. And it says here to enter the OCLC WS key to enable electronic resources search. I thought that it might be useful to show you what this resources search actually is. So let me see if I can get to my Okay, so that didn't do anything. I've got these toolbars that are covering up my Firefox menu. Actually, this one I can close. Okay, there it is. This is the opening page for the GAO, or Government Accountability Office, and they are the actual institution that funded this enhancement. Let me just go back to the home. Okay, well, maybe that's where I am. In the version that they have implemented, they have a feature that allows them to add this electronic resources to their menu bar. And when you click on the electronic resources, you will be taken to the search page, which actually gives them a method to get into their electronic collections and do some searching for them. So I'm not giving a total description of what's going on here. I just want to show you what it does. With this, it gives me the opportunity to search, and I'm just going to search for Harvard Business Review. The idea is that with this, you'll be able to tell where this particular journal is indexed. So if you are trying to do a search in one of your licensed databases, you'll have an idea of where to go to find this journal indexed. So, and in this one, it says that it's in the collection of Gale Academic One file, and also in Business Source Corporate Plus, which is an EBSCO database. So it also gives you the citation if you're going to have this in a paper. And that gives you the capability to identify the indexing sources, definitely. What it does beyond this, I am not entirely certain of at this point. This is as far as Patrick showed us. And that's basically all that I wanted to show you for. But this system preference is the one that is key in order to get the electronic resources option appear in your menu bar. The description of this says to enter the OCLC-WS key to enable electronic resources search. And I would suggest that if you don't know what the OCLC-WS key is to go to OCLC site and to search for WS key, and you'll get several different documents that you can read through. My understanding is that this is a machine-generated key that you are assigned by OCLC one time and one time only. And Patrick said that it looks to be like a string of digits, including letters, numbers, symbols, uppercase, lowercase, that is about up to 60 characters long. So that is obviously something you don't want to type. So when you get it, I would, or if you get it, I would save the email message that it comes in and make sure you keep it in someplace safe so that if you ever lose it in your preferences, if you ever decide to use it, you'll be able to get it back again. At this point, this is just notification that it's here. The system isn't ready yet to use this. It's just laying some of the groundwork so that once the feature is ready to go, we'll at least know what we need to have in order to make it work.
But I assume that we would have to have an active subscription to the relevant OCLC web services.
The way that you get the WS key, as far as I understand it anyway, is that anyone with a cataloging subscription, and that involves the online, the various options that you have to do cataloging with OCLC, as long as you have a cataloging account, you can get a WS key. And it doesn't cost anything. That's the key I think everyone needs to be aware of as well.
But it wouldn't, for instance, do the vendor information center stuff that you showed us there if we didn't have a subscription to that.
That would be to WorldShare. And my understanding is that with that WS key, you get the capability to search everything that's in the knowledge base, in the OCLC KB. And that includes lists of all of the different offerings that the different vendors have. If you've ever searched in that part of the system, it does maintain almost every electronic database that you might ever want. And one of the potential benefits of this is that if you search for one of your licensed databases or a journal that's in one of your licensed databases, you'll have a path in order to see which other journals are indexed. Because in OCLC WorldShare, the entries for each of the databases includes a list of all of the journals that are indexed in that particular database.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't showing just the places where that particular library could gain access to that particular journal.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, my understanding is that it's also somehow linked to Coral, which LibLime is working on getting integrated into Bibliovation. I don't know for certain how far they are with that, and I'm not certain how all of it goes together for GAO, but I know that I can demonstrate something. Okay, any other questions about that part of it? Okay, let's move on to the second item. And I was talking with Ben yesterday, and I asked what I thought was a simple question. Is your campus closing down because of COVID-19? Because I had heard on the news that there were some campuses that were in fact closing down classes. So as we talked about it a little bit, Ben found an article that identified libraries in the tri-state region, which is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, I believe, that in fact were closing. And I just thought it would be a good thing to at least keep aware of what each of your colleagues around the country are doing in order to address this particular virus on campuses. And I'm just going to throw it open. Anybody who has any information or news is welcome to just open up your either chat or open up your microphone and go ahead and speak.
Hi,
Okay,
Becky.
and
Yeah,
hi.
yeah, yeah. I'm going to echo what Anna said. We just at Hartford got the message that our students are being sent home until the end of the month, and then we're going to be teaching online for a little bit. Just like at St. John's, staff are going to be here at least for now. We'll see if we get any new updates on that, but I just got out of a strategic meeting with some of the rest of the library staff, trying to figure out like what we can do for students who might already have books out or need some materials. So yeah, this is timing is everything.
Okay. Anne, can you share a little bit about how you're preparing to work from home?
Yeah, it's actually been a little tricky, but the library dean has requested from all the supervisors and the department heads that they prepare, with job tasks that can be completed by the staff, particularly like in departments where you maybe can't work remotely, like circulation, I guess. So we're trying to manage documentation on the website and what the staff can do for things like holds and reserves and interlibrary loans and, it just basically accessibility where it requires you to come into the library. I think, and then just making sure everyone in all the employees are equipped with a WebEx account. So making sure that's tested, people know how to use it. Also making sure people have the equipment they need at home. I think a lot of the staff people are a little nervous because they don't really, they're used to on-site stuff. So, but we haven't gotten any word about doing that yet. We're just sort of in preparation mode right now.
Okay. Yeah, one of the thoughts that has been going through my mind is how do you manage to do reference in a completely online environment? I know that there are places that do it, but if you're a reference librarian and you're used to being at a reference desk and accessing either databases or print materials right from right where you are, how that will work. There are, let's see, what is the name of it? There are some online helps. You've all seen the messages in the lower right-hand corner, usually saying chat or assistance can be found here, and you can have an online chat session with someone. So I imagine that's one way that people will be using the different pieces of technology in order to continue providing service.
We actually have a chat button built into the first page of our COA setup, and it uses lib answers from SpringShare's libguides suite of applications. We also have it set up so that it'll launch a floating window. So if in the process of the chat we send somebody a URL, when they click on the URL, it's not going to close out the chat session because it'll just load in one of the windows behind it, which is really useful. Most of the stuff that we have right now uses static URLs, COA included, so it's helpful for that. Some of the stuff that we're brainstorming about is changing our overdue notices to let students know that they're not going to be charged for the overdues. Just bring the books back whenever they get back onto campus. Changing the term loan policies so that right now everybody gets a term loan till the end of the semester, or sending out bulk notices to our students, letting them know about the library being closed to the public or whatever else we have to tell them. Oh, and switching on shelf holds so we can do paging.
Okay. If a patron needs a print resource and they request it through the hold capability, are you going to mail the item or items to that patron?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're also considering the possibility of, if you just need a chapter, let us know. We'll scan the chapter and we'll send it off to you. We use Iliad, and it's got some neat functionality for document delivery, which is basically just interlibrary loan for the people who are already on campus. So we're going to do that. I do have to talk to my interlibrary loan person about the fact that we might be pulling books from the shelves and popping them into the mail. But that's one of the things. And like Anne, we're also talking about what it's going to take in order to keep some basic library operations going if we can't be on campus either. So how to work from home for some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness the days of installed software for an ILS are over.
Yeah, that would be hard to remotely troubleshoot how to or why the software installation didn't go as you expected.
Yeah.
Really. How about the others on the call? Are your campuses making any plans to close, or is that still something that's not hit your campus yet?
We're certainly planning, contingency planning.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're in Washington State, but we're on the other side of the mountains. So we're hoping the mountains are going to protect us.
That sounds like wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Because there's the rest of the country to your east that unfortunately is experiencing the same thing. So.
Yeah, I think that we're going to close down the interstate highways. No, we're not really. That would be a very Trumpian solution, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's close all the airports so nobody can come or go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't done anything yet, but you're planning for it.
That's right.
Stephen, have there been any diagnoses of the virus east of the mountains?
But it's been pointed out to me that they haven't been testing for the coronavirus. They've been testing for the flu.
Yeah, and they're
then
two different
when
things.
they don't show with the flu, then they say, "Oh, go home and take care of yourself." But because we haven't had the capability, and so once they start testing, then they'll start finding.
Yes. Let's see. How about one of the others? Let me see. Okay, Julia, you're in the same way. Oh, they are doing some of the testing in Walla Walla. So is that just people who are exhibiting symptoms and who are recommended, or can anybody go in and get tested? My understanding right now is that there aren't all that many test kits or tests that are available out there. So we'll see. Let's see. Zach, how about you're at Bank Street, correct? Okay, well, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let's move on to our next item. We'll check in each time we meet to see how things are progressing at different campuses. Right now, since I've been self-quarantined for a long time, I am not too worried about the virus myself, but so I'll still be here for a while. Okay, let's go on to enhancements. One thing that I think I had mentioned before during one of our meetings is that the enhancement ideas that are farther down on this page that we've identified are things that we should probably try to expand on just a little bit so that we can start sharing some of these with Patrick and John so that we can find out what it would take in order to get the enhancements added into the software. And I've been thinking about these for a while, and I decided to try and start coming up with some ideas on how we can get things together. I don't think that we need to have, if you were here when we did all of the specifications for the original 50-some enhancements that were needed by Waldo, you'll know that we had online telephone calls, we had specifications that we reviewed and modified, and it took quite a bit of effort to do that. I think that with the kind of enhancements that we're asking for, we're not asking for total rewrites of software, we're not asking for completely new modules, we're just trying to do some tweaks and enhancements that will help make everyone's lives a little bit easier. I think we don't need to add a lot of detail to any of these ideas, but I think we need to have, just maybe a little bit of more words to expand what we mean so that we make sure that whatever we get is available everywhere that we want it to be available. And I sort of picked on the preferred name field for patrons. And I just want to share with you how I got started on this and how far I got on it, which isn't as far as I had hoped to be by today. But I started a document that identified, first of all, the general area that we wanted, the preferred name field for patrons, and using Snagit, which is a tool that I have on my PC, I showed where I thought it would be a good idea to add in a preferred name field, which would be right under the first name, and made it pretty obvious that this was something that was added in. The rest of the information that I've thought about, I didn't get written down yet, but what I intend to add here is to add a field to the borrower's table, which is usable for creating patrons, editing patrons, in notices, and in reports, so that whatever field is added would be able to be added in. And what I also want to do and will do is to find a sample of a notice that has been generated through the system and do the same thing, copy it, and then insert places where I might want to see the preferred name. What I was thinking as an example would be getting an overdue notice as it currently is generated, and then show it as I would like it to be possible once this enhancement has been added. Usually the mailing address doesn't really matter, but when you do the salutation for your notices, you would want to say Dear Becky instead of Dear Rebecca, which would be the name that would be downloaded. The other consideration that I was thinking of adding in here is that the preferred name would not be part of the patron upload from your business system. So from your business system, you would have a surname, a first name, but you wouldn't have a preferred name that would get uploaded unless your campus has added a preferred name to their banner or whatever other student information system you use, that database, in which case it could be added in. But just to make sure that the name fields don't get confused and get overlaid. Anyway, that's what my thought process has been on this, and I will have this modified a little bit more by the next time that we meet so that you have a more complete example of what I'm thinking about. The other one that I've started thinking about is the one about storing authority records in MARC format. And that one, I think it's more writing a justification of why we want it in MARC format. And in my mind, what I'm thinking of saying on this is we want to be able to retrieve data from the MARC fields in the authority record, much like we retrieve MARC data from the records for bibliographic data. And I don't care how they choose to display, or, well, I shouldn't say I don't care. I do care, but it isn't as important to me how they use the authority records. Right now, they're storing the authority bits of the record in JSON format, and that is very tricky to write an SQL. In fact, I think it's getting close, or it's pretty close to impossible. And in order to get meaningful authority reports, we really need to be able to get down into the MARC structure. So that's kind of the ideas that I was thinking about.
Becky, this is Jennifer.
Go ahead. Yes.
I just wanted to say I agree with that. But I would like to add that we want to be able to extract records as well and manipulate them, and then be able to put it back in, just like we do with BIP records.
Yes.
So if I pull out all my authority records and clean them up and put them back, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
yes.
just
And the reason I'm talking through these things is so that we can have these kinds of discussions. I would also suggest that I'm not going to write all of these myself. I'm hoping that some of you will be willing to help add ideas at least. I can get documents started for all of them. Let me think about that a little bit. But there are some, let's see. Well, actually, there are a couple that are repeated. There's this preferred name for patrons, and then it's identified down here again. And we have authority validation, normalization, and finish authority record validation. So maybe my first task would be to deduplicate this list And you've noticed I haven't gone above any of, or looked at any of the ones that are above. What would be really nice is if the person who suggested it, and I did not keep track of who suggested it except for the first three, if they would be willing to expand a little bit on that, and then we could look at what is written for these, and in a discussion like we just did, come up with things that maybe we missed. Once we get them into a little bit more expansive mode, I would want to run them by Patrick and John. Patrick, so that he could have the programmers look at it and give us an estimate of the effort that it would take. And that effort usually translates into a price quote. We would be able to say, okay, we think we should go ahead with A, but we won't do B until maybe next year or something like that. But I want to create a process so that we can get these enhancement requests moving off this page and into actual development. If there is something that you are interested in providing additional information for, it would be worthwhile for you to just, send me an email to let me know, and I'll put your name or names in parentheses after these, and then any when I get the draft documents started for each of these, I can send them to whoever wants to work on them, and we can just keep the documents flowing back and forth. Does that sound like a reasonable way forward on these?
Sure.
Okay, I have 2 yeses, 3 yeses. Okay, so my goal is to get a document similar to the one that I showed you here, started for each of these that are individual requests, so that we can start editing them. My goal would be to try and get these before John and Patrick before the end of the semester, if we can possibly do that. And with all of you, well, I shouldn't say with all of you, with some of you working from home, you may have more of an opportunity to work on something like this than if you are in your offices. So anyway, that's what I have in mind for that, and we will see where we get on that.
So can I ask whether anyone else, we're continuing to have a problem with our scanners at Circulation, where we'll scan a barcode and it will just sit in the input box until we hit enter. And this has been introducing some errors into our process with things not getting checked in and things not getting checked out properly. Has anyone else seen that? That's obviously more, yeah.
And says same with us.
Stephen, our
What's
issue's weirder because it's like happening, maybe not everybody notices it, and I think it has more to do with the
Right.
the person who's observing the screen.
Yes.
They will automatically hit it and they don't realize they're hitting the enter.
And this was something that started like with the last big release, and the scanners were working fine before, and then afterwards not so much. And we purchased new scanners. We've run through all the settings. There's nothing has worked.
Well, I do know that LibLime does have at least one scanner, so they can't use the excuse we don't have scanners, so we can't reproduce it. And I know that you've entered support center tickets about this in the past, which didn't yield satisfactory answers, as I recall.
Yeah. I'm just, the only thing that I can do is encourage them to double check, to print receipts, even when they think they don't need to print a receipt.
Mm-hmm. Just because
Stephen, have they tried to troubleshoot at all? I mean, are they just not finding the problem?
A lot of times they're not seeing it.
No,
Because
I mean, I'm sorry, a PTFS, if you open a support center ticket, are they not being able to replicate it?
they replicated some part of it. I forget exactly where that was left. I just keep hoping that they're going to fix something in one of these point releases and it'll magically go back to normal. And then I come and I find that they've been keeping a checklist at the circulation desk of a number of times they've had this. So.
Okay, Stephen, what I'll do is on next Tuesday when I meet with Patrick and John, I will ask Patrick to resurrect this and, find out from him at least where they're going with that. I know that I know that they use a scanner at ALA or whenever they're out doing trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm certain that they must run into that every now and again. But I think I'll go the route of saying, please escalate this, because this is something that the libraries are doing everything that they can in order to do testing and to try and resolve it by resetting their scanners, and it keeps appearing. So obviously something is happening between the scanner and the software. So
yeah,
there needs to be some kind of assistance, hopefully, that they can give us.
that'd be great. Thanks. Yeah, certainly we've tested, putting it in Word or Notepad and scanning, and yeah, it puts in a carriage return. There's no problem there. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because once you see this, once a scanner transfers the digits to that box, it's in the software. And if something doesn't happen once it's in the software, then something in the software has to be causing the problem. Let's just hope that they don't come back and say, well, it's your barcodes.
yeah, ours and everyone else's apparently.
Yeah.
If it were our barcodes, though, it would be a consistent problem, not an intermittent.
That's true. Ben, that's a good idea. I'll send a message to Heidi and ask her if they're having that problem anywhere. I would think that if they had that problem, it would be like their top bug that they wanted to get fixed. Okay, so I'll redouble efforts on that, and we'll at least bring it to their attention again, and hopefully we'll be successful. Okay, anything else that we should discuss today? Okay, seeing nothing in chat and not hearing anything, we'll end for today. We'll meet again in 2 weeks. Oh, that should not say, either of those dates should not say February. They should say March. Sorry about that. it will be March 26th when we will meet again. Thank you all.
Thank you, Becky. Stay well.
Okay, you too.
Give it a shot. Bye.
Bye.